the meat and potatoes.
Oh, let's start with the early prelims.
All right, so which one of the early prelims really impressed you?
For the most is the Miles and Dos Santos.
You know what? That one was really impressive too. And what about that impressed you?
It was actually John's that really got my eye. I feel like well the thing is, do you know anything about John's by the way?
I didn't know anything about Johns, but I'm gonna know a lot about him after this fight.
Yeah. I was because
Yeah.
I was saying even just the way he came out, I had to read my notes. He came out relaxed, composed. I felt like Dos Santos, he kind of came out erratic. You know what I mean? When I was looking
Yes.
at both of the fights, and I felt like just John was just you know what I'm saying? He just had that composure. Like he was ready for he came up for the moment.
You know, and I'm definitely gonna have to agree with that. One thing that I'm gonna say, and this is gonna relate later to when we're talking about Derek Lewis, versus Cyril Gane, is I like the way that when Dos Santos, went southpaw, he corralled him. He
Mm,
kept his foot on the outside and he made Dos Santos go back towards his power. He didn't let him get out towards the outside. After he beat that leg up and made him turn southpaw. And then I liked how he beat the leg up first and he finished it with the boxing.
mm.
So he showed that he's multi-dimensional. He's not just a one-trick pony.
And yeah, you see him setting up that body shot right across in the second. I noticed because I when I first watched the fight live, I just saw the body shot right across. That was a knockout. But when because I rewatched it last night, you could in the middle of the second round, you could see him set it up. I was like, oh shoot, you know what I mean?
You know what? I'm gonna have to pay a little bit more attention next time, because I was more or less listening to the announcers because they were asking for the body kick.
Mm,
They were asking for the body kick. Me personally, if I would have went with the leg kicks, because as soon as you switch southpaw, you know that your defense is compromised and you can't check as good,
mm-hmm.
and you can't take as many kicks on the southpaw leg.
Right.
So me, I would, personally, I would have went with the leg kicks, but he got it done, so that's all that matters.
We got it done. Now you think like so what do you think? Do you think it's just another great fighter, or do you think he could actually make a dent in the division? What you thinking?
Uh, what is this 135? 135 is a tough weight class. 135 used to not be so stacked, but more and more you're seeing that the division is getting deeper and deeper. I think he can make a dent in the division. I'm not sure how long it's going to take because everyone in the top 15 is talented.
Mm,
You're talking about, that Sugar Shane O'Malley is in that division, and he's
right.
was he ranked 14?
Something like that.
So that just shows you how deep that division is.
So we just gonna have to see.
So one of the things I did want to talk about was it Carolina Kokovic? I'm mispronouncing her last name versus it was a female fight
That was on the early prelims.
on the early prelims
Okay, so I ain't
versus
catch that on the go ahead. So what happened with that one?
Carolina Kokovic versus Jessica Penn. I believe that's it. I may just be mispronouncing the names a little bit, but this is one thing that I really want to get off my chest and stress a little bit. When you have
Mm,
a striker, let's just call her Carolina, so I don't keep butchering her last name. You have a striker as good as that, and you're gonna see this in the UFC sometimes. Their opponent falls to the ground. They know that their opponent has the better grappling. But time and time again, I see, strikers of high magnitudes follow their opponents to the ground for no reason.
mm.
Nowhere, in the rules does it say if your opponent goes to the ground, you have to follow them. Time and time again, I see these high level strikers follow these people to the ground and then get submitted.
So you think that was because I remember now I know you're talking about the fight that was on the main card. So you think that was an
Yeah.
ego thing or what?
Um, I really don't know what it is. I think it's, you get into a fight and you know that, on the ground mount is a dominant position. And people really just want to be a mount, but you got to remember this is a sport. You know, when you break down MMA, you got to think about it as more or less than just a fight. It's also a sport. So you got to do what you're best at to also win the sport. Don't jump right into someone's guard, trying to get mount if that's where they want you. Stand up.
Now, refresh me. How was she doing right before that moment? Was she piecing her up, or was it kind of like an even fight before she? You know what I mean, when she fell?
She was doing okay. I would say she was winning. She had the advantage on the feet, but you see it time and time again. But that I just wanted to get that off my chest because that's something that bothers me. As a striker, you're a striker, so you probably watch it and feel the same thing I feel when you see strikers go to the ground for no reason.
Yeah, see, it's even when it comes with like takedowns or getting them off the fence, like back up. You know what I mean? Throw them hands, do what you're good at.
Yeah, it's just something that I think that's the next level when it comes to fighters, and this is something that Cyril does really good. He's cognizant of what he's good at, and he does what he's good at.
Mm-hmm.
And fighters need to realize that. But I jumped a little ahead to the main card, so
we'll go back. You had to get that off your chest. You good?
I did. We'll go back to the prelims. How about the prelim card main event? Was it Bobby Green versus Fiziev?
Yeah, that was my next one. Crazy fight, bro. That shit was crazy. Now I'm gonna tell you this though, right? Mm-hmm. On the first watch, I actually had Green, and I didn't think Faziev won. So when he won, I'm like, dang, that's not true. On the second watch, it's crazy. Even though I loves Green's defense, Faziev was putting hands on him, man. What you think about that?
So the way I saw it is, I saw round one could have went either way, because they were both tentative and learning, each other's defenses and what each person is good at. So round one could have went either way. Round two, I gave it to Fiziev. Round three, I gave it to Bobby.
You get the Bobby.
So if it was 29-28 Fiziev, I wouldn't have stressed it. If it was 29-28 Bobby, I wouldn't have stressed it. But when you start getting stuff like 30-27 Fiziev after Bobby, put on the immaculate third round, it starts.
Yeah,
that judging is so critical, especially in these divisions where they're deep, like 135, 145, and 155. One bad decision by the ref that changes the trajectory of your whole career.
Yeah.
Because think about this: Fiziev and Bobby Green, I think these guys are on the outer ranks of the top 15. So these are two dogs who aren't even really deep in the division yet. You got to fight these guys to even get to the top 15.
Yeah.
And then you lose a split decision. These aren't easy fights at these lower weight classes. Everyone's a dog.
Yeah, I agree with that, man. And because they were close. Because see, the way I had it, even for the second and third, I had Faziev like really piecing them up. But at the end of the second, I noticed that Green was going crazy. I don't know if you noticed that, but like towards the end of the second and towards the end of the third, like he was just going like, yeah. Did you see that shit or no?
Yeah, I definitely saw Green was definitely putting on. I think I was mispronounced his name, Faziev. Green was definitely putting on Faziev in the late part of the second round. I would like to say after that 2-minute mark, that's when his momentum started to pick up, and Faziev was looking a little gassed. And I think he was looking a little gassed because if I remember correctly, he was throwing very hard kicks, and Bobby was rolling with them, or he was stepping out of the way. So when you swing big and you miss, this is going to allude to the heavyweight fight again. That takes a lot of energy. Even at 155, he's swinging 100% with those kicks, and Bobby's not there to get hit. That's taking a lot of energy. He's throwing these combinations. He has to throw 5 punches to land 2 on Bobby. That takes a lot of energy.
Right.
Whereas Bobby comes in, hands down, when he's out of range, he has his hands down. And then he slips the long punches and his hands are down. And then when he's in range, he pulls his hands up. That's less energy, than having your hands up all the time and then trying to chase an elusive opponent, especially when you're throwing, you know, hard combinations. You got a person like Bobby Green with great head movement. Don't even try to hit the head.
Body, go for the body.
Go for the body or take the power out and, throw same side combinations.
Right. So you're not totally upset with the. Oh no, you don't like what the scorecard said.
I'm okay with the 29-28. I'm not okay with the 30-27.
Okay.
Okay. 30-27. It's just I can't possibly see how Faziev won the last round.
Like clearly like that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anything else? Oh, you go.
No, go ahead. What are you saying?
Is there anything else on the prelims that really stood out to you?
I would say where was Menefield versus Herman? That was a decent fight too.
Yeah, it's a decent fight. You got to see Menefield, somebody who's built like a tank, really compose himself and not make the big mistake of outgassing himself. Stand within himself. Usually guys with a lot of power, they sort of gas themselves out. But Herman, on the other hand, he should have sort of this is hard to say, easier said than done when getting knocked out is at stake.
Mm-hmm.
You sort of got to pull the gas out of those big guys. You got to make them, press on the gas pedal because they want to sit back and fight at that slow pace. You got to force it out of them.
So you don't think Menefield was gassing a little bit? Because he was throwing crazy in the first.
He was gassing a little bit, but he stayed composed.
Mm.
He stayed within himself.
What weight class was this?
I want to say that's
light heavyweight.
That's 205. Yeah, light heavyweight. If I'm guessing. I have to fact check that later, but I'm almost sure that's 205.
I'm gonna keep it 100 with you, based on what I've seen, and if I'm comparing Menefield to Reyes or what's the guy's name? Who's the Polish guy again?
Jan Blachowicz.
I don't really see him going too crazy in this division. What you think? Am I wrong for saying that?
He's still young and he's still green. He has a swinger's chance against a lot of guys, but I think if he's gonna have a real chance, being one of those short, stockier guys, his strength is gonna be exploding a couple times around, but really holding you against the fence. Hold you against the fence, explodes when he wants to. All right, he doesn't get you out of there, hold you against the fence again. If I was him and I was built like a tank like that, that would be my game plan. Because once you get into these 5-round fights, you can't explode, 7 times a round, for 25 minutes. That's an extra 10 minutes tacked on. So, strategy is important depending on how long you're fighting and who you're fighting. Obviously, this. So,
right.
But he's still young. I'm not sure how he'd do against a Reyes. Reyes is very elusive, very good at cutting angles, getting off the tracks, coming back on the tracks. Jan Blachowicz is champion for a reason. Defense is very good. So
yeah. Now, was I the only one that was like clutching my leg? It looked like Herman had a beef rib on his shin, bro. That shit looked horrible, bro.
Yeah, Herman definitely, he's tough for sticking it out. I think in the first round is when the leg damage really accumulated. Yeah. So he's very tough for sticking it out. He sort of comes from the older generation of fighters, sort of.
Mm-hmm.
So, I would like to see him sort of add some new skills, maybe even rely on like the grounding game, the grappling a little bit. If you're getting kicked, maybe Herman should be the one initiating these clinches. Not too many people kick in the clinch. I've only seen a couple people do it in the UFC, but you got a guy like that. Why don't you, Herman's the guy with the bigger frame. I'm not sure if he had the bigger muscles. You got the bigger frame, put that frame on Menefield. make them carry your weight, hold them
Yeah,
against the cage. Yeah, the crowd's gonna boo and make it boring, but it's better than fighting on one leg.
there you go. All right. So actually, before we get to this one, what are your thoughts on what was it? Kape versus Osborne?
Yeah, I know what fight you're talking about. That's the 125 fight. I think Kape missed weight and he ended it with the flying knee.
Was it a
The
flying
ref,
knee?
yeah,
Okay.
flying knee. Osborne, I believe his last name is, was trying to corral him. Kape has great footwork. Um, Came in with the flying knee, ended it. Some people might say that it was a little early of a stoppage. I don't know. I'm not here to dispute that. When you're young in your career and it's sort of on the prelim fights, I think it's better that the refs stop it a little bit early,
Mm-hmm.
because they're trying to protect you for the longevity of your career. Now, if you're fighting for a belt, I could see letting it go a little bit longer, but
That's interesting first because I actually thought it would stop early, but I never thought about it in a vein that these are young guys early in their career. Why have a nasty war that could give you brain damage? You know what I'm saying? But something that's not
yeah,
really gonna. Okay, I see what you're saying though.
yeah, like it was disputable. It might have been a tad bit early, but you gotta think, as a ref, you see a guy get jumping knee in the face and go down. It might have been a tad bit early, but it really wasn't too early for me.
Mhm.
Either way, if you would have let it go, I wouldn't have had a problem. Since he stopped it, I don't have a problem. I understand why he did it. I think that's more important.
Okay. Anything else?
And for Cape, I would like to see him be more active. He has the good footwork, he has the good head movement. I would like to see him throw more volume
Mm-hmm.
because when you get to the better guys at 125, you can't throw 10 punches around and a couple leg kicks. They're not going to be there to get hit. You can't wait for that perfect shot
Right.
against the top guys. You sort of got to create those opportunities. There
All right,
was it.
moving
I
on.
think the female fight at on the prelims, Hill versus Tisha Torres 2.
That was on the prelims or the main card?
I got the two females fights. There's a couple female fights. I'm not sure. I think that might have been on the main card. I think,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. So
I'm
what you think
jumping.
about? Okay. So one thing I don't know much about Hill, but one thing I've seen from Hill, it seems like is she that crazy? Because every time I see a crazy fighter, she's always in that crazy fighter's highlight reel getting hands and feet put on her. So can you tell me a little about Hill? Like, is she crazy with the hands or something or what?
So this is, yeah, now I remember this is definitely on the main card. Um, so she started Muay Thai when she was 25. She's about 35 right now. So she started a little bit late. She's game to fight anyone, but you know, at this age, she sort of has to make these gigantic leaps if she wants to improve her career and fight these very talented people. Um, the problem is I'm not sure if her skill can really match the top fighters in the division.
Mm-hmm.
So one thing is, just because you're less skilled than someone doesn't mean you can't beat them. So let's just get that, let's get that clear. Because there's also experience and strategy. So I think she needs
Right.
to come in with a better strategy when she's fighting these top dogs per se. When she's fighting a Tisha Torres, when she's fighting a Michelle Waterson, when she's fighting a Claudia Gadelha, which I think she won that fight, but that's neither here nor there. You know, she started a little later than these girls, so she's gonna have to come in with a better strategy just because she doesn't have the experience or all the skills yet. She's still learning on the go. Some of these girls have a lot more experience, and props to her for always fighting the top females. I just don't think she's at that level yet. So she's taking these losses just because she's a little green still.
Because I feel like she had nothing for Torres. Torres was going crazy on her, man.
So one thing that I like, and this relates to the prelim male fight with Casey Kinney and Sung Yadong. Sung Yadong and Tisha Torres did a good job of being elusive and using the footwork. Hill and Casey Kinney both followed the opponent the whole time. They chased them around the ring. And what I like that so this is what you need to realize. Sung Yadong and Tisha Torres, you could see the speed difference in their fights versus their opponents. The hand speed and the kick speed was evident. When you have a fighter like that, if you're the slower fighter, you have to go first and third. And what I mean by that is if we're fighting, I have to hit you first and I have to hit you third. So that way the people judging the fight see that I initiated it and I ended it.
Okay. But you said that's to offset their aggression?
Not just to offset their aggression, but just to keep on equal footing because they're faster than you. They're gonna land more punches in these exchanges.
I see what you're saying. Yeah.
They're landing more punches in these exchanges. So you have to go first, and then you have to go third. So you could, one, you're playing a game. So MMA is a game too. You have to also, not only do you have to win the fight, you have to win the competition as well. By going first and third, you're winning the competition aspect of making it look as if you're winning the fight, because you went first, you started the attack, you went third, and you countered their attack.
Now, it's funny you mentioned Song because I forgot what exact card I first saw Song on. It might have been like 3-4 months ago. But I remember when I seen him, I'm like, yo, I need to see this again. This dude needs to get another play ASAP. And I want to ask you this. Now, do you think Song is just another aggressive fighter? Or do you think, because he is young though, but do you think he's just another aggressive fighter? Do you see something special happening with this man in the division? Because he's young, 23, doesn't
So
back up.
This is 135. This is a deep division. He had a fight with another 135er. They fought at 145 though. 145 though. He fought Cheeto Vera.
Okay.
Cheeto Vera is the one who stopped Sean O'Malley with the leg kicks and the knockout.
That was Song's last fight?
That was, I think, 2 fights ago.
Okay.
So that might have been like 6-7 months ago. Can't remember the timeline. Cheeto Vera really put it on him with the experience. That experience plays a factor. Sung is really young, but he has a great team, a great wrestling camp and Team Alpha Male. And then naturally, like I said, he's fast. He has that, fast, and he has that blitz, traditional martial arts where he can go in and out really fast. He has good vision. And you saw that with the Casey Kinney fight. I don't feel like he was ever in danger, really. So one thing I like that, Sung did and Tisha Torres did is whenever their opponents were chasing them, they would throw, Tisha Torres did this a lot. She would throw like a snap kick or a crescent kick to sort of create that space because they know they're being followed. And I think that was the big thing is I know I'm being followed. Let me give you something to walk into.
Right.
So those are 2 things that I liked from them. As far as, where does Sung go? I don't know. He can go anywhere. 135 is a deep division. He can fight. There's a lot of guys he can fight in that division. So if you want to take it a slower route, maybe fight someone that's a little lower ranked. Don't, put a young guy like that automatically into the Bulls ring with the top guys and, break your fighter too early. Put him against someone who's a little bit evenly matched with him.
And let him grow for a little bit, right?
But for Tisha Torres, on the other hand, she's a little older, so she's gonna have to be a little bit more risky with who she wants to fight. And then Casey Kinney.
Do you think is go ahead?
No, that's what you're gonna say because I want to hear this question.
So do you think that Hill is? I don't really see it going well for Hill, man. Yeah, I understand she has to make adjustments. I don't. What do you think is likely?
So one thing that I don't like and that I'm never gonna like is a fighter with their hands down. See, Bobby Green has his hands down, but his hands are down when he's out of range. He puts them up when he's in range, and he shoulder rolls. So that's different. Hill has her hands down, and she does sort of like a walk. She swings her hands sort of like to get momentum, and her chin's a little up, and her hands are down. For someone who comes from a Muay Thai background, I would think her hands would be glued to her head.
Mm-hmm.
So she's getting hit a lot because her hands are down and she doesn't have really good head movement. So she needs to fix the upper half of her stance. That's what I see.
Okay.
I would say, fight people more on her level, because she's fighting people above her level, which is great, but they're just a little bit too above. So fight people a little bit above your level and at your level, so you could test your skills. She's just getting out experienced right now and
Yeah.
outskilled. She has
She's
to go
not that
back.
young.
She's 35, but she started late.
Okay.
She has to do a better job of keeping those hands in her face, and the head movement. She has to move her head before she gets into the exchange, which is something that even me, I could work on before. Don't wait till the punch comes to move your head. Move your head before the exchanges happen. Keep your hands on your face and keep your chin down. Keep your chin tucked. But I think she'll be okay. Go back, have 3 or 4 fights against people more her level, after she's made improvements on her skill, and then go back to fighting the top dogs.
Okay. All right. So we're on to Aldo and Munoz, right?
No, we forgot one. We forgot
We did?
Vicente Luque
Oh, shoot, I
versus
skipped that.
Michael Chiesa.
Okay, so let me start off by saying this, because I know you're gonna go in on this. So when I said, because now the last time I seen Luque was against Woodley. He finished
Yep.
Woodley, and I've never actually seen Casey fight. Casey?
Chiesa.
All right, Chiesa. Now, one thing I'm gonna notice, I didn't realize how long Chiesa was. He has some long ass limbs, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I said, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm gonna go in. So I'm gonna let you go
Okay,
first.
yeah.
I'm gonna go.
So first thing I was like, okay, I didn't know he was so long. The second thing I said, I was like, I believe that was a great takedown that he did. He set it up. He had Luque kind of focusing on the striking, and then he said, "No, that's not what I do." Boom, took it down easy. And I said there was multiple times where I thought Luque was going to be finished. So I saw. So the fact that he switched it over kind of reminded me of the what was that fight? Chandler and Oliveira, where you
Yeah.
would expect it was like an opposite. The outcome was what happened. It was an opposite. It was the opposite outcome from the opposite fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You expected the grappler to get, not get
Yeah,
submitted. You expected the striker. I mean, you expected the striker to not get, knocked out.
yeah, because Kies is
With
like
the,
some general when it comes to the jujitsu, right?
that's what he's been, so now that's
Go
what
in, go in.
yeah. So, all right, a little bit about Chiesa. He fought the 155 division. He's been in the UFC for a long time. At 170, I don't think he tested himself properly. I sort of think he took the easier road. He's a very tough. This isn't a knock on Chiesa. I sort of think he got the matchups that were favorable in grappling. Let's just say that. So he starts out by fighting Diego Sanchez, who's who's a shorter guy than him, and was at the end of his rope. He out grapples him. He fights the Carlos Condit. He out grapples him. He fights Neil Magny. Neil Magny is one of my favorites. Watching that Neil Magny fight, I was very frustrated because Neil Magny had the striking to beat Chiesa. And this is why I say you have to know your strategies. Chiesa is not known for his striking. Neil Magny made the mistake of trying to out grapple him. And what would happen is Neil Magny would, initiate these clinch battles, and Chiesa would reverse it, and then he would just, stay on top for the whole round. But when Neil Magny kept space, Chiesa could not enter that striking range, and he didn't really have an answer for Neil Magny strikes. What I see from Chiesa is His striking needs a little bit of work as far as like striking defense and how to enter, you know, into these grappling situations because people know that he wants to grapple, so they're going to be extra cautious. In this fight, I saw that he put in the work necessary to set up these, grappling exchanges a little better. He was moving side to side very well. He was landing very good strikes on Vicente Luque, and he was doing very well moving side to side. He got in position, got it to the ground, and he had Vicente Luque in some very dangerous positions. The problem is I think he got caught in that Darce choke because he focused on standing up. I watched the finish, by itself multiple times. I can't really break down the jiu-jitsu aspect as good as I can break down a striking aspect. But, the only thing I can imagine that happened is that he focused more on standing up rather than where his opponent was, and he kept his head down. And Vicente Luque, he had just, choked out Woodley. And I believe he's a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, so he's also very talented on the ground. So, Michael Chiesa, a taller, longer guy, standing up is going to take a little bit longer. And he's, stood up with his head down, and Vicente Luque jumped on his neck, got that Darce. I want to take it back a little bit further. I want to say Jorge Masvidal fought Michael Chiesa at 155 pounds, and he also finished Michael Chiesa with a Darce. So, that's 2 times I believe he's been finished, with the Darce. And then he got finished by Kevin Lee in a rear naked choke at 155 pounds. So now you're sort of seeing, if it happens once, okay, maybe that guy just got my neck because he's really good. But now, 2 Darces and a rear naked choke, and you're supposed to be the wizard on the ground. There's something that, there's something that he's doing that, I can't really break down that well, but that he needs to go back and look at, how are these people getting to my neck? What am I doing wrong? How can I defend my chokes better? I'm good offensively on the ground. What can I do better defensively on the ground? So, and there was also, I'm not sure if there's a guy named Damian Maia in the division who is the best jiu-jitsu fighter. He called out Chiesa for a long time, and I don't think Chiesa was interested in that fight. I think that was a very dangerous fight for Chiesa because it was going to be a jiu-jitsu match, and I don't think he could have beat Damian Maia.
No.
No.
Didn't Maia get cut? He got cut or not?
I think he's still in, I think he's looking for a farewell fight, his last fight, but
Okay.
he won at Michael Chiesa. And I think for Michael Chiesa, that would have been a very good fight to test yourself before you jump into the top 5 and lose these big opportunities. Because when you jump into the top 5 and then you lose a big opportunity like that, that's 3 or 4, 4 fights to get back to this opportunity. Where if you lose it earlier, when you're ranked like 10, it really doesn't hinder you so much.
So I got a question for you, man. Luke and Kamaru, let's talk about it. You seen the call out?
Yeah, I believe they used to train together, and Vicente Luque said that Kamaru Usman used to get the better of him. I would say the time is now for Vicente Luque before Kamaru gets any better with his striking. Because Kamaru's with, I want to say Trevor Whitman. And people, when they fight fighters, they always look at fighters, but you got to look at the coach. Don't just look at the fighter, look at the coach. Is the coach qualified and certified? Trevor Whitman is qualified and certified. So he's going to be able to improve the most basic of fighters and make them, grow exponentially like he did with Kamaru Usman, which is why Kamaru Usman had the skills, the strategy to beat Jorge Masvidal and knock him out the second time. I don't think he's a better fighter on the feet technically. I think Jorge still has better skills. He still has the sharper skills, but Usman had the better strategy, and his skills also grew exponentially from the first fight.
You know, and
So
I totally agree with what you said regarding the coaches, because it's going to allude to when we talk about Gane and Lewis. If you pay attention to what his coaches were saying to Lewis when he was sitting down, they weren't saying anything. There was no strategy. It was, you got to land a big shot. You got to land a
yeah,
big shot. Yo, Lewis, make sure you land. It's like, yo, that's all y'all got to say to Lewis?
yeah, we're gonna get into that because I got a lot for that one. So,
Okay.
so good thing we didn't bet money, or I'd be a broke man right now.
Right.
So, Vicente Luque versus Kamaru Usman. I think Kamaru's a strong guy at 170. He is probably the strongest guy. There's a guy named Michael Piera who's he's a guy who does the capoeira, does a lot of flips. He's about 6'2". He's very
Yeah,
strong,
yeah, I like
but
that.
he's not in the top, 5 right now. So he's not, getting discussed for title shots. But Kamaru Usman may be the first or second strongest guy in the division. He's very big. His wrestling is very good. I don't really see him getting submitted. He fights to his strengths. His striking is only getting better. His cardio doesn't seem to ever be depleted. He never really looks fatigued. He fought Kobe Covington. His cardio, stayed the whole fight. So he's looking very well rounded. So for Vicente Luque, I think the time is now to really start campaigning for that title fight. The problem is you sort of can't rush other people's timelines. Challengers don't get to dictate fights.
Mm,
The champion dictates when the fights happen.
yeah.
So, and 170 is a deep division, and the UFC is a what have you done recently type of company. So by the time,
Kamaru, by the time
yep,
what happened? Go ahead, finish your statement.
by the time Kamaru fights again, it'll be what, November. By
Yeah,
then, other people at 170 would have fought,
that's a fact. Yeah.
and people will forget about Vicente Luque's performance.
Mm. Because now you say that the challenger. Okay, I see what you're saying. So even if Kamaru does challenge Luque, it was still a big gap between him when he last fought Chiesa.
Yeah,
Okay, okay.
because you got to think he's gonna fight Kobe. So he fights Kobe. Let's say late October, early November. I forget when the fight's happening. So this fight happened in August. That's already 3 months. And then he fights Vicente Luque. Let's tack on 4 months because he needs some rest time between his fights. Challengers don't get to pick the pace. Kamaru's gonna fight when he wants to fight, and he's been pretty steady. So the UFC is gonna listen to him. So you're looking at 7 months out probably from him being able to fight Kamaru Usman.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that Michael Chiesa win gonna really hold up
I
that
don't think
far?
so. I don't think so.
You
No, no,
know,
no, no.
he who did he beat before this? He beat Tyron Woodley,
It's not.
I think,
Yeah, it's not going to.
and then I think he beat somebody else prior. I think he's on a 3-fight win streak. But the problem is his last loss is to Wonder Boy,
Mm.
and it was a pretty it was a pretty one-sided loss. So you got all these dogs at 170 who are all campaigning for a title fight, who just honestly, someone needs to fight multiple times a year, and not 2 times. I'm talking 3 or 4. There's a guy in the division named Neil Magny, who I'm a big fan of. He fights 4 to 6 times a year. The problem is he just can't crack that top 5. But if one of these guys in the top 5 can, put together 4 wins in a year,
Mhm.
they will stand out because you have Jorge Masvidal. He's probably not going to get another title shot, but he's a money fight. You got Vicente Luque. You have Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You
With
have
Leon.
Gilbert. Yeah, I'm coming. You got Gilbert Burns. You got your boy Leon Edwards. See, Leon Edwards, he's in the same predicament. He fought Nate Diaz, but how long ago was that? What was that? 2 months ago? We're in August. That was in June, I believe. So you think that's gonna hold? You think that performance is gonna hold up over 9 months?
I think what Leon has to do is, I think he needs the Masvidal fight. I believe if he takes that Masvidal fight, beats Masvidal, I don't think he could just. If I'm keeping it 100, I don't see the timeline where he goes from Nate Diaz to Kamaru.
It's just
Just
yeah.
knowing how the game is. But I believe if he fights Masvidal and beats him, that could be a crazy setup, especially if he has a good performance.
So I think the fight is dangerous for Masvidal because if he loses all his hype. I think his stock dropped. I love Jorge Masvidal, but his stock dropped. The problem with beating Jorge Masvidal is that people will automatically say he hasn't been the same. He's on a losing streak, and that would immediately, sort of weaken, Leon Edwards' argument for a title shot. If I am Leon Edwards, I want to fight Gilbert Burns. I want to fight a guy who just came off a win. So that way, I just fought a guy who came off a win, who I want to say is number 2 in the division. He's ranked above Jorge because Jorge is not in the top 5. I believe he's ranked number 6 prior to UFC 265. I want to fight Gilbert Burns. I want to beat Gilbert Burns. He's coming off a win. Masvidal's coming off a loss. Who else? Wonder Boy's coming off a loss. Vicente Luque is ranked below me, and he's ranked below Gilbert Burns, which is his teammate. If I want the title shot, I gotta take out the top dog.
But listen, though, that's the logical statement. That's the logical thought, right? But as we've seen, the UFC doesn't really operate on logic. It doesn't operate, okay, since you did this, it goes basically on hype. It goes based on story. You understand what I'm
It
saying?
does. Yeah, storylines sell. They really do. But it's a dangerous fight to lose for both of them.
If Leon loses, he loses all the hype. Because I don't even think I don't even think Dana and all them want him as a champion. So if you lose to Masvidal, it's over. It's over
And
for
this
you.
it's a fight that he can lose. Because
Yeah.
I think he has the better kicking. He's a better kicker than Jorge Masvidal. I think he's stronger and has the better wrestling than Jorge Masvidal. When it comes to the jiu-jitsu, I don't think either one of them are going to be using it offensively. But when it comes to the boxing, I still have to give it to Jorge Masvidal. And his hands are slick, and I think he's a little bit more aggressive than Leon Edwards, and he's a little bit more nasty. And he's coming to finish. He's not coming to coast.
Leon doesn't have the dog in him. He just doesn't have the dog. It's like a technical kickboxing match. That's what he wants. He doesn't have that nasty, that killer instinct. You know what I mean? Where you really trying to hurt somebody and get him out of there.
And maybe fighting Jorge Masvidal will bring it out of him because they had those prior issues.
Yeah.
But I just have not, I've not seen that dog come out of Leon Edwards. And that shot he took from Nate Diaz, that was a bad shot to take because that's all people remember. He beat Nate Diaz for 24 minutes and 45 seconds of the fight, and people only remember that.
Yeah.
So, and he took that shot. Imagine if that was Jorge Masvidal giving that shot.
Right.
Imagine if Jorge Masvidal hit him that clean.
Right.
So, but if Jorge loses, that's 3 in a row, and and that's a bad look. So Jorge, I know he's a little bit older. I want to say he's 36, 37. He has to play his cards correctly, and he has to win his next 3 to 4 fights. He has to do what he did.
It's a muscle win for him?
Yes. He has to do what he did in 2018 and finish all the top ranked people. That's how he got the first title shot. Knocking out number 3 Darren Till in England, knocking out Ben Askren in 4 seconds, 5 seconds, TKO and Nate Diaz. I think he has to put the persona aside for a little bit and just get back to being gritty and gangster and just knocking people out.
Yeah, but I mean, let's really talk about it, right? So you said he TKO Nate Diaz. Is Nate Diaz really that crazy? You say he knocked out a Ben Askren. Is Ben Askren really that crazy? Do you think all that could be replicated? You know what I mean? You don't think those are like special moments?
Um, so what I would say is Nate Diaz, he doesn't get TKO'd that much. He's known
That's
for
true.
being durable. So you go out there and you TKO the most durable guy. It was a doctor stoppage, so people aren't gonna really call it a real finish. But he put it on Nate Diaz, you know, and he caused the doctor stoppage. Ben Askren, we don't really know how good he is, but he didn't even allow Ben Askren to even show a glimpse of how good he was. He shut it down from the beginning. Darren Till is a very technical striker. So for him to go out there and knock Darren Till out, who was ranked number 3 after not fighting for, I think Jorge Masvidal went on like a year without fighting. You know,
Something.
he has to go back and forget the gimmicks, forget the street Jesus, forget all that. Just go back to being gritty, being grimy and just finishing people. You know, and don't worry about being a showman too much. He's worrying about being a showman a little bit too much in the Usman fight. Sometimes he has too much fun in the ring. That's one thing I will say that gets him in trouble. He has too much fun in the ring. When he dodges these punches, he feels himself a little bit too much. Stay composed, Don't celebrate until the fight's over.
Okay. All right. So we got off track a little bit. That's good. That's good. So we got Aldo and Munoz. You want to set it off? You want me to set it off?
You can set it off.
Okay. So Aldo and Munoz, man, a striking masterclass. So here's my notes. Where I said halfway through the first, you could tell Pedro had no idea what to do with Aldo. I was like, Aldo looked untouchable in there. I said I was thinking Pedro would make adjustments for round 2, but I was wrong. I think Aldo was just too crisp. I said, just I couldn't take my eyes off of Jose Aldo during this fight, man. I said every movement and strike he made was made intentionally and methodically. I said I think Pedro was throwing a lot of stupid spinning kicks. I didn't really see the part on spinning kicks he was throwing. I said Pedro's a great brawler. Like if he's there against like a who's like a Cody Garbrandt, I think you got a
Yeah.
crazy fight. But when you're going against someone like Aldo, it's different. He's just too technical. He's too like even like when you were you see what he was doing in the first and second. All
Yeah.
those movements, all those strikes he was doing in the first and second was all leading up to the third round. Like at like the first led to the second, and the second composed to the most like you see
Right.
every like even like the first second of the third, boom, 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 crazy combo, right? I said Aldo came out like a demon in the third. I was like, it was like watching art, masterpiece. I said everything he did in the first 2 rounds set up what he did in the third, and it got me ready to damn near hop in the ring. I just love watching Aldo, man. I can't wait to see what happens to him. I love to see got the TJ Dilla fight, the TJ Dillashaw fight that might come through with this. And I'm interested, man. What you got? What you think about this?
So I think Aldo showed why he was a champion. He was a prior champion at 145 pounds, and I think he showed why he was a champion. I think he looks better at 135 than he did at 145 skill wise. Not even just with the physique, skill wise, he looks better. I would say he's known for gassing out, in the 4th and 5th round. So I like these 3-round fights. In these 3-round fights, he doesn't really gas out too much, and he could really let it all go in the 3rd round, like he did against Pedro Munoz. What I did really love from Jose Aldo was his boxing was very crisp and his defense was even crisper. And everyone remembers Aldo for his crazy leg kicks, but Pedro Munoz has very good checking skills. So what I really did like was Aldo only threw the kicks when he knew they were going to land. And when they landed, I think he landed 6 of them. The last three, two of them turned Munoz. The last one, Munoz went to the ground off the kick. So that still shows he has the kicking power, but he's not just throwing the kick to throw the kick. Like you were saying, he's very strategic of why he did things. And he mixed it up well, going to the head, to the body with the punches. He outboxed him. He never really let Munoz get in the range. And he stayed composed. At 135, in a 3-round fight, I think Aldo beats anybody in a 3-round fight. In the 3-round fight at 135, I really do think he beats anyone because he doesn't have to worry about gassing out.
He could not be touched in there. Like, he had an answer for everything. Like, I think he might have got hit in the face like maybe 5, 6, 7 times. Like, he could not be touched in there, bro.
I agree. And when he fought Peter Yan, the champion, the fight was very close, up until that 4th round. That's when, Peter Yan started to pull away. So, when he fought, champion Peter Yan, it was very close to first 3 rounds. If you got to fight Aldo, you should campaign for a 5-round fight so you can have some type of physical advantage, because it doesn't look like people are going to have the technical advantage. I think he's on a 2-fight win streak against Chito Vera and against Pedro Munoz. So if I'm looking at the top 5, you have TJ Dillashaw. He might be out for a little bit. I think he got injured in his fight against Corey Sandhagen. You have Rob Font, who's a very crisp boxer. And that maybe, TJ's out for a little bit. So, if I'm Aldo, I don't want to wait for TJ. Maybe I fight Rob Font, Rob Font has very good boxing. Maybe I throw those leg kicks that I'm known for. I take Rob Font out of the picture. And then TJ Dillashaw is out of the picture because he's been injured. And you know how the UFC works. You can't wait that long. Or maybe I take out Corey Sandhagen. So there's a lot of good fights for him. And for everyone else, these fights are very dangerous. Because I really don't, on the feet, I don't see Corey Sandhagen dominating, Jose Aldo.
What weight class is Sugar Sean O'Malley in?
He's at 135, and he's fighting.
I want to see that fight. I want to see that fight, man.
He's lined up to fight
Frankie
Edgar.
Crazy fight.
He's lined up to fight Frankie Edgar right now.
How was Frankie? He nice with it or what?
Frankie Edgar used to be, Frankie Edgar is a small guy. So he's one of my favorite fighters. He walks around, I believe, at 153 pounds. So he walked around at 153 pounds. He used to be the lightweight champion at 155. He went down to 145, and the only thing stopping him from being 145 champ was a guy named Jose Aldo. Jose Aldo beat him twice, then Max Holloway. So, he's only really lost to the top dogs, and then he had a loss to the Korean Zombie. Then he went down, had a win against Pedro Munoz in a close slugfest, and then he fought Corey Sandhagen as Corey Sandhagen hit him with a super knee and knocked him out. So Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Frankie Edgar might be a little bit dangerous because Sugar Sean is more of a showman with the flashy attacks than Corey Sandhagen, and they have the same frame. So I think Frankie has to get in on those hips and take it to the ground. And Sugar Sean knows this. Thing with Sugar Sean is he said that he's really not interested in fighting the top dogs until they pay him more. If they're going to keep paying him the same, he's going to fight the guys who are lower ranked and keep putting on a show.
I feel it.
And if he keeps putting on a show, then he's going to get higher paid.
Yeah.
I would personally like to see him fight some top competition. And Frankie is, I want to say he's ranked. I know he's ranked in the top 10. So that's sort of higher competition.
Hold on a second. Pardon me for interrupting, right? Because I agree to what he said. But how much more money are we talking here? So do you think this might be a form of ducking or what? Because it's easy to say, I don't want to fight Jose or Peter and all of them because I need more money. But how much are you asking for? What's more money? Do you think he's ducking, or does he? Or what do you think?
Mhm. I don't know how much more money he wants, but I know how he can get more money. If he's in it for the money, knocking out guys, because at the end of the day, Sugar Sean O'Malley isn't ranked that high. So for him to take on someone who's ranked in the top 5 doesn't really make sense on his part. You know, excuse me. He should be fighting people in that 10, that 14 to 8 ranking. He doesn't have to touch the top 5 yet because, he's not even ranked that high himself. But back to the money thing, he can make more money putting on a show than he can fighting the top guys and losing because he's more interested in his stock. He keeps, having flashy, finishes. The stock's going to keep rising. He just fought that Chris Mutino kid, and actually, I'm not sure if his stock really went up too high off of that because everyone was more impressed by Chris Mutino and how many strikes he took. So I don't know. Personally, if you're in the fight, then you got to fight the best. And I would like to see O'Malley versus Corey Sandhagen. 2 tall, lanky guys for the division, both with a lot of flash, both with good, striking. That's the fight that I would personally like to see. Unfortunately, one is ranked 2, and I think the other is ranked 14, 14 or 13. So I don't think it's
Well,
going to
now you
happen
say
anytime
it
soon.
doesn't make sense. Now you say it doesn't make sense for the ranking, but how does it not make sense though, right? Because when you really what do the ranks mean? You look at Kamaru versus Kobe. Kobe should not be fighting Kamaru again.
I believe Kobe's ranked I think he's the number 1 contender.
Is he?
Yeah, I think he's number 1 or number 2. Things may have changed after the 265 card, but Kobe's still ranked very high. He's in the top 5, I believe. When the fight was made for the rematch, he was ranked number 1 contender.
Okay, maybe I'm ignorant because I know Kamaru fought Gilbert Burns, and before Gilbert Burns was who?
It was Jorge Masvidal. So he
Was Jorge
beat
Masvidal?
Jorge. Yeah, he beat Jorge, beat Gilbert, beat Jorge again.
Okay. Maybe I'm just wrong then. For some reason, I would think that someone else deserves a title shot, but I guess yeah. I mean, if he's the number 2, then yeah. Okay, all right, then. Never mind.
He just has, like I said, 170. These guys got to get more active. Don't wait to the championship fight to realize you got flaws in your game. Because in the UFC, to be honest with you, you could lose 3 in a row and then win 4 in a row, and then you'll be back in there for a championship fight. But if you lose a championship fight or 2 championship fights, they're not putting you back in there until you get, 5 wins. I'd rather lose contender fights than championship fights.
Right.
So,
All
so are
right.
we on to the
So
meat and potatoes, the meat and potatoes, the main event?
all right. So Lewis and Gane, man. So they said Gane is a phenom of athleticism. Striking is crazy. Should not move like
Yeah,
that. But regardless of the fact, Lewis KO's second round. Gane is crazy with the hands and
yeah,
feet, but he
yeah.
doesn't have that power. Lewis KO round 3. So let's get into it, right? Let's get into it. So I
All
said,
right.
first
So,
off, okay, go ahead. What you got to say?
just one thing: is it Ghana or Ghana? Because I don't want to mispronounce it. Cyril Ghana
I
or
think it's
Cyril
gone.
Ghana?
I think it's gone. Cyril
Yeah,
gone.
Cyril Ghana. Yeah.
Cyril gone. So these are my notes, man. Let me just go through all the notes so we can get into it, right? I got a lot of notes for this. So first of all, I said, in regards to, so I said Lewis needs to chill on the head kicks. I said, I feel like the head kicks take too much energy. I feel like he should focus more on leg kicks. I feel that, in my opinion, I think he just throws them just to throw them. I don't think just to show that he could throw head kicks. I feel like he's taking way too much energy, focus on leg kicks. My second thing I said, Lewis actually had good movement in the first. He was loose. When I was watching Lewis, it was a little different than when I would see him in his other fights. Like I remember he was bobbing up and down. I felt like in this particular fight, people say he kind of folded under pressure. I believe in the first round, I don't think Lewis really folded under pressure. I think he was really confident. Just by looking at his movement, I said in the first, I said there was no rhyme or reason in the first round. He was just being aggressive. There was no strategy, no plan. So you could say even though he was being aggressive towards Gane, he was still eating a stiff jab, and it would kind of back him up a little bit. He didn't really know how after that ate that jab. You can see it in his mind. He kind of tried to reset, but he didn't really know how to, you know what I'm saying, how to go from there. I said, I believe at the 42nd mark of the fight is when I knew Lewis had nothing for Gane. I said Lewis is not an honorable fighter. I said he got punched in his face, held his eye, he pointed at Gane. I mean, I don't think that was honorable. I said in the clinch in the second, he showed. I said the clinch in the second round actually showed how strong Gane is. I remember people were saying that he doesn't have that strength, but I think he was actually stronger than Lewis in this fight, low key. I said towards the end of the second, Gane did the. Okay, I said towards the end of the second, one notable part of the second round is when Gane had him in the clinch, and then he ducked low. What is that elbow called when you hit someone with the elbow when you duck low and hit him come up like this? They had like a name for
back
it.
elbow.
Back elbow.
Back.
Hit him with the back elbow, cross back, and hit him with the right elbow. Then Lewis got tight and threw a crazy haymaker, right? I said Lewis was looking stressed at the end of the second round. I said the power shit got to his head. He got exposed. I said you saw when Gane was swinging for the fence is crazy. Okay, so what about that one part? I think it was in the third round when Gane had Lewis crouched up on the corner. I think it was the first time he had him crouched up. And he was throwing these punches. Gane was throwing these punches on Lewis from the back, from the other side of the arena. You remember that?
Yeah.
That was a notable part. I said Gane had great situational awareness, right? Because there was a couple of times where, I don't know if you've seen it, you've probably seen it, where there was a few times that fight could have ended. And the only reason it didn't end is because Gane slipped the punch at the last second. There were some times, bro, where Lewis was throwing some. I'm talking like the punch must have been like this. It was like, for example, like what I said at the end of the So at the end of the fight, right at the end of the third, when Lewis got hit with a head kick, he got hit with a left head kick. Boom. At that exact moment, Gane rushed him. At that exact moment when Lewis got hit, he threw the nastiest right cross. I wish if I could put it up on the screen, I would. And at that exact second, this is not the first time he did it. He like ducked under the punch, but it wasn't like some regular duck, bro. I'm telling you, like this right cross would have ended the fight, but it just grazed his head. So it was just crazy. He has crazy moves. He has crazy reflexes. And also, my last note was the coaches had nothing for Lewis, right? If your strategy for your fighter is, oh, you gotta land a big shot. I think that was very embarrassing. I think it wasn't good coaching. I think they just had they relied. I understand. I believe that if you're known for having a lot of power, if you're a fighter with a lot of power, a striker with a lot of power, yes, that's your gift. You can knock people out crazy. But I believe that a game plan should be built around that. I don't think that you should just land a lucky shot. Something should lead up to that. You know what I mean? So if you just rely totally on just landing the shot, in the event that you go against a fighter that's extremely technical, that knows you got that shot, I believe that once he shuts that down, you could be like a fish out of water. You know what I mean? And Lewis is not honorable with the head eye pokes. You did not get poked in the eye. You got punched in the eye. That was not. I ain't rock with that at all. He did that multiple times. Matter of fact, you poked Gane in the eye. You poked him in the eye, and he didn't complain. He just did a reflex like, "Oh, you got me," and you complained. He pointed like a kindergartner, like you know when you point at somebody when they hit you, right? He pointed. Well, yes, I'm gonna let you go.
Oh man, he came
wait,
out
hold on a second. He came out to still tipping in Houston. He flew to France to Houston, shut the whole arena down. Let's go. All right, go ahead, bro.
All right. So some things that I would like to agree with you on was the strategy. when you're going against somebody who has as good as technical skills as Cyril Gane, you can't come with the same strategy that the last fighters before him have came with. You know, I'm going to hit him hard. He's in the heavyweight division. Everyone's trying to hit him hard. That's a very bad strategy. Cyril Gane had just fought Volkov. He made Volkov, who's very good on the feet, who beat Derek Lewis for most of their fight until he got knocked out in the last 10 seconds. He made Volkov look average, and Volkov is actually 6'7" and longer than Gane. So Gane had to sort of, use the footwork to get into the range of Volkov. So if he can get into the range of Volkov and get out, then he can get into the range of anybody at that division, because Volkov is one of the longest guys. He fought Rosenstrike before that, and Rosenstrike actually looked very much like Derek Lewis in that fight, if you remember correctly. He did not throw a lot of strikes. He didn't have any answer for the movement of Cyril Gane. He didn't throw a lot of strikes. Derek Lewis did not throw a lot of strikes. And the reason that these guys are not throwing a lot of strikes is because in any division, it is tiring to miss when you're not missing on purpose to set something else up. So, when you're a heavyweight and you're going out there missing full power shots, that's taking a lot of gas out of you, taking a lot of wind out of your sails. You're gassing yourself, especially when you're throwing 100% every time. And Derek Lewis, he came in with the strategy, talking about the strategy beforehand. Oh, I got the right hand. Everyone's hyping him up. He has the right hand. For Cyril Gane, that's easy. He's faced more technical strikers. So like you said, you can't come in with the right hand. You got Cyril Gane who's coming out southpaw. He comes out southpaw. That right hand's eliminated. When you stand orthodox, you're both orthodox. The right hand's a little closer. He comes out southpaw. Now your left foot is touching his right foot. That right hand is so far back, it's not going to reach. How's the right hand going to reach when he's southpaw? And then he's on the outside of you. He's on the outside of your foot. You're actually in his power range. So Derek Lewis was out of range the whole fight with that, whenever Gane would go southpaw, which was most of the fight. He took it completely out of the picture. If I'm the coaches of Derek Lewis, you have to do what you did before in other fights. I need you to create chaos. Gane was a little bit too fluent in there. There was never any chaos for them. In these exchanges, I know what you're talking about. I seen Gane slip a lot of punches very closely, but they weren't chaotic. If you're a guy like Derek Lewis, I need you to go out there and land a flying, not land. I need you to go out there and throw a flying knee just to get some chaos, just to break the rhythm of Gane's movement. I need you to do something to break that rhythm so you can get close enough so you can land that big shot. Sitting there waiting for the punch with no setup, I would actually think it'd be better to focus on the left hook. Focus on the left hook. I need you to corral Cyril Gane in. He's going to be going southpaw. He's going to be moving to your outside. I need you to focus on this left hook because you already know how to throw the right cross. That's not going to go away. Focus on this left hook, corral him back in. And I, like you said, it was just poor coaching. For me, it's sort of what's next for Gane and what's next for Lewis. And, that's what I want to get into.
I think Lewis turns into a gatekeeper now. I don't see anything for Lewis after this. I think this was his last shot for. If the stars align, obviously, everything is possible in the fight game. But I'd be like, if he wants a championship, I don't think the stars align for him in such a perfect way like this again. I think he becomes a gatekeeper. I think. So before I even go to Lewis, what do you think about that? What do you guys say about that?
I think he beats anyone. I think he has a chance to beat anyone in the division who's not named John Jones or Cyril Gane. Personally, I haven't seen John Jones yet at heavyweight. No one has, but at 205, I know he's capable of, and I know his wrestling pedigree, and I know his clinching pedigree, and I know he's just as tactical as Gon, if not even more tactical, because he has way more experience. Gon has the crazy footwork, and he's very tactical as well. But there's nothing saying that, I think Derek Lewis can still beat Francis Ngannou because Francis Ngannou doesn't have the footwork of Gon, and he's not looking to be on the outside. He's looking to land a banger. So if you're putting Francis Ngannou's banger against Derek Lewis' banger, it's 50-50. You're putting Stipe against, Derek Lewis. I think Stipe can out-wrestle him. And I think he can definitely beat Derek Lewis, but he's not as elusive as Gon. And I think if he gets hit by Derek Lewis, he can go to sleep. I think Derek Lewis is just as powerful as Francis Ngannou. I think if we go Derek Lewis versus Rosenstrike, that's a good fight. We can do that. Two big men. Rosenstrike's a technical striker. People will watch that. I think Derek Lewis can beat Rosenstrike. I just don't see how he beats Cyril Gane, and I haven't seen John Jones at heavyweight, and if he comes in more athletic and better than what he did at 205, I don't see how Derek Lewis beats him.
Now here's what I have to say to that, right? So he loses via TKO to Gane, right? And you say, where does he go from here? But bro, for him to get another title shot, so let's say his next fight is Rosenstruik, right? So then he knocks out Rosenstruik. What would he have to do then? He would have to then knock out who?
He would then have to knock out probably the loser of Francis Ngannou and Gane. And if it's Gane, he's in trouble.
So you think after he beats Rosenstruik, he goes straight to he gets the winner of Francis and
the loser.
He does?
He gets the loser. He can. He can.
He can.
If he beats, if he beats Rosenstrike, he can get the loser of Gane versus Derek Lewis and Francis. If the loser is Francis, he can get that fight. If the loser is Gane, he's not going to get that fight.
Why not? Because Gane might not. He could reject it, right?
Just because no one wants to see it. We've already seen it.
Oh,
it was we saw Francis versus Derek Lewis, and it was, years ago, but it was close. People don't want a rematch of a fight that wasn't close, that was recent. Gane just beat Derek Lewis.
The thing though, the top 5 in that division is very slow moving. So if Gane beats so the winner for Francis and the runner for Francis and Cyril, I believe is going to go to John Jones or Stipe.
Yeah, the winner is.
So how does Lewis come into this? Lewis is not going to get the winner of.
He's gonna get the loser of the title fight.
Oh, the loser.
Yeah, he's gonna get the loser. There, yeah, he's gonna get the loser. If the loser is Francis Ngannou.
Okay, that makes sense, bro. I didn't think about it like that.
He can get the if Francis Ngannou loses,
it's a good fight for him too.
People will want to see that fight again. If Gane loses, then unfortunately people don't want to see that fight. But if Gane loses, that's actually better for Derek Lewis because Francis is still the champion, which means Derek Lewis can fight anyone not named Gane and try to get a title shot.
And that'll be crazy for Lewis too because it's not going to be like a technical fight. It's a knockout artist versus a knockout artist. That fight could be made anytime.
I think going back to what I said, you can beat guys with more technique, and you just got to have the right strategy. And he came in with a bad strategy. And now we talk about John Jones, and this is what I want to get into. Cyril Gane looked very good, but I have not seen him against a high caliber wrestler. Like a Curtis Blades or something. Curtis Blades is still in this division. Stipe is still in this division. John Jones is still in this division. He's just out, he's out striking strikers. I want to see him beat a guy who's not going to play this outside game with you.
Mm.
You know, because when John Jones gets you in the clinch and takes you down, you know, he's not looking to run the clock out. He's looking to hurt you.
Yeah.
And if John Jones comes in at, you know, the heavyweight, you know, comes in at heavyweight at 250, and he's more athletic than he is at 205, and he's stronger than he is at 205, and he's just as tactical, that might actually be a real problem for Gon, because Gon's
Mm.
not known for his knockout power. So that's a good fight for John to test himself.
Do you see John Jones fighting next year, bro? I don't know. The way the climate is looking, it's not looking too crazy, bro.
I I actually believe it's more favorable that he fights next year than this year, because you know he has to put on all this weight and muscle.
No,
So
I'm
for him
talking. Do you
to
even see him fighting next year with the way that's
with, with COVID,
yeah, not
or
not with everything going on between him and Dana and the UFC.
yeah, I do,
Okay.
because at the end of the day, he's John Jones. You know, if he comes back, he says, "I want to fight." It's John Jones.
Yeah.
People want to see what he has at heavyweight. You know, I want to see what he has at heavyweight. His brothers play in the NFL. They're both big guys. I want to see John Jones fill out his frame and see how he looks at heavyweight.
Yeah.
Because if he's nastier at heavyweight than he is at light heavyweight, then that's going to be a problem. You know, these guys aren't as technical as they are at 205.
Mhm.
So John gets close, you know, closes that gap and takes you down to the ground and starts beating these bigger guys up who don't have the technical skills to handle his grappling. That's going to be a real issue.
Oh man.
You know, he's already dealt with people who had speed at 205. So, you know, the speed isn't really going to be an issue at heavyweight.
Mhm.
So,
See, the thing is, I'm more excited. I would rather see John versus Nagano than John versus Gon in a weird way. Even though I feel like Gon and him would be like an interesting fight in terms of just strategy. Just the visual aspect of John and Nagano was just so crazy to me, bro.
well, Gon versus Jones is a fight that people who like fighting would watch because it's
Mm.
technical. Francis versus John is a fight everyone wants to watch because it's John Jones versus the one of the hardest hitting guys in the UFC, if not the hardest. Who's and Francis is, you know, has spring in his step and he's athletic. He's very athletic. You know, that's the one thing that separates him from Derek Lewis is he's more athletic, has bigger legs, springs on those legs. You know, Derek Lewis sort of plots a little bit more, doesn't have, you know, he's a little bit more top heavy.
Mm. I want to see Nagano get punished. Like if he fights John Jones, I want to either see John Jones get brutally knocked out, or I want to see Nagano get like punished. That's not something I see often when he's like on the bottom and he just raining down elbows and
Yeah.
his face. Like you remember when Cormier fought Rumble the second fight?
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
no,
He
it was the
punished.
first fight. It was the first fight. He got up. He was like we
Yeah.
never seen Nagano like that, and I feel like that could happen with
Well,
Jones.
the first time Ngannou fought Stipe,
Okay, true that.
Stipe, Stipe put a beating on him, but he hung in there. Personally, I don't think you can hang in there with John Jones when he's in the mount, when he's on
Mm.
top. You know, he's too mean. He's too
Right, right.
aggressive. You know,
Yeah.
he's looking to hurt you. You know, and some guys don't have that killer instinct and that, you know, that I'm trying to hurt you instinct. John Jones has too much of it when he gets on top. He's not
So
trying to
okay,
play.
so I have a question, right? So you have a guy like who's the Italian dude? Marvin. You got to do like Marvin Vittori. When he
Yeah.
gets on top, he kind of just lays on you. He doesn't really do much, right? But then you got to go a guy like John Jones. What's the difference? What's the difference between someone that's mounting you that's mean and someone that's mounting you that's just normal? Like what does he do that will make him mean?
The caliber of wrestling.
Okay.
You know, Marvin Vittori might, you know, John Jones is a very high caliber, you know, wrestler. So when he gets on top, he's not worried about you reversing the grappling. when he gets up to strike. When he starts throwing these strikes, he's not worried about you reversing it because his grappling is so good. He knows if anything goes wrong, he can just, hold you back down in the position, maintain the position, and then, get back up and land these elbows. As
Damn, you
far
make
as
it sound
Vittori,
horrifying, bro.
as far as Vittori gets on top of like an Israel, Adesanya for like a couple seconds, he's holding on for dear life because he can't lose this position because it's everything. Whereas John
Can you
Jones,
imagine the visual of John Jones doing that to Adesanya? Can you imagine that, bro? That would be so freaking crazy.
see, Israel Adesanya, this is why I say sometimes it's better to lose these, Israel Adesanya lost the championship fight, but the championship fight was not as big as the John Jones fight, if you get what I'm saying, because John Jones left the division. So sometimes it's better to lose these lower ranked fights by a little bit than it is to not truly know what you are lacking. Because if Israel Adesanya would have fought John Jones, unfortunately, as good as Izzy is, I think he really would have got hurt.
Yeah. And I feel like John Jones really has animosity for Izzy. I feel like he would really try to hurt him, like maim that man.
And Israel Adesanya was saying that he wanted to follow John Jones at the heavyweight.
Really? Oh, crap.
So
how tall is he again?
They're both 6'4".
Oh,
they're both 6'4". John at 205 is a little skinny, is a little skinnier. John at heavyweight's going to be filling out his frame. As good as Izzy is on the feet, this is mixed martial arts. His striking is very, is the best in the UFC, probably top 3, just striking. But, the grappling is not. And, for him to want to fight John Jones, even at heavyweight, is commendable. But after watching the Jan Blachowicz fight, I don't really think it's necessary because I think at 205, John holds him down and elbows him. And I think at heavyweight, he holds him down and elbows him.
But John could always cut down to light heavyweight, right?
He's not, John is actually opposed to cutting again.
Yeah.
He says once he puts on the muscle, he's staying at, heavyweight, which is why this transition is taking so long, which is another thing him and Israel Adesanya got into it about. Israel Adesanya thought that he was going to be able to go into light heavyweight without putting on the muscle. John Jones disagreed with that, and it showed in the grappling that Jan Blachowicz had about 30 pounds on him.
Had Izzy beat Jan that night, what he would have gotten the belt, right? So what would have happened? That would have been crazy.
John Jones might have stopped cutting. Might have stopped putting on muscle. He might have lost his muscle and then went back to light heavyweight. And hopefully he, hopefully he wouldn't have lost too much muscle and strength, and he probably would have beat Israel Adesanya that night.
Wow, man. Okay, so wrap up thoughts on Gane and Lewis. Any final thoughts on that?
Gane looked good. He looks very technical. He's outstriking these strikers. I want to see how he looks against someone who's just as technical with a good strategy and good grappling. Derek Lewis coaching has to be better. Don't send your fighter in to do the same thing that everyone else has done before and failed at. That's very silly. And I was wrong. Derek Lewis did not knock out Cyril Gane. I will say it. I was wrong.
Yeah. One thing I'll say, bro, is now here's the thing. When you rewatch that fight, Lewis looks very bad. It's like, dude, come on, bro. But I'm not gonna lie to you, but when I was watching that live, I was still on the edge of my seat because I knew. I ain't gonna hold you. There were some parts in it where like Lewis is like he's about to die from exhaustion. But I'm like, no, there was some like scrambles. Remember when you said when God would slip it at the last second, bro? I was at the edge of my seat, bro. Like that fight still could have ended, bro.
Yeah, just a little bit better strategy.
What you think about Lewis with little fake ass little? What you think about his little
the eye pokes? The eye pokes.
That shit annoying me, man.
It's a veteran move. You get, eye poke can get you 5 minutes of rest. It's not something that I would, recommend because you
Yeah.
want to fight. While you're fighting, you want to fight. Don't worry about eye pokes because the ref might not stop it, and now you're just putting yourself in harm's way. But if it
But
does
not
work, you
even
get
that
five.
though. I'm talking about getting eye poked and eye pointing, and then like low key like coming back with a haymaker because the dude felt sorry for you. Isn't that what he did to Volkov?
No, I think he just knocked Volkov out.
Okay, okay. I could have swore maybe I
Yeah.
maybe I got it wrong where he act like something was wrong with his eye, and then
No,
Volkov
yeah.
was like,
Yeah, but he did, and honestly, I'm not sure if he even realized it was, a poke or a punch because at that point he was just so exhausted.
mm,
You know, like
yeah,
I said, heavyweights don't like to miss shots, and Gana's making these big guys miss shots.
yeah, yeah. It was an interesting fight, man. So let's go to prediction. What's the next card coming up next week?
It's the next card has one high key fight on it, and it's going to be Kevin Gastelum versus Jared Cannonier.
Okay, so yeah, I watched his fight, Cannonier fight against Hermans. Oh,
Hermanson, yes, they
this is what I
both
wanted to
just
say. You know
yeah.
who Jared Cannonier reminds me of?
Say it.
You, bruh. You, dead serious. I was watching the Herman because the last time I seen him fight was I think was when they uploaded him versus who's the dude from Australia?
Robert Whitaker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And
They
that was
both
that was a
just
good
lost to
fight.
Robert. I think Robert yeah, I think he's Australian. Yeah, they both just lost to Robert Whitaker. That was both their last loss.
Yeah, yeah. So I never actually seen another fight with him. So I seen him versus Hermanson, and the way it reminded me of you because he's very like I can't explain it. Like he doesn't. He kind of just he's very thoughtful in his actions, right? So he doesn't like everything he does. You even see certain parts of Hermanson was throwing strikes on him, was landing, not really landing, but he was throwing strikes. But Cannonier was kind of composed, kind of just not really chill. He might have got hit, but he was still, you could tell he was still thinking, still adjusting. And but anyway, he reminded me of you. So what I got from that fight was um I'm not sure what to think of Cannonier, bro. I'm not really too sure what to think of that fight. With Gastelum, I just don't know. When I try to really think of the outcome of that fight, how that fight could play out, I can't really. There's like a mental block. So what do
All
you
right.
think about this?
So I would say I like Janet Cannonier, not to win the fight. I'm just saying I like him as a fighter because he's a guy who came from heavyweight. He used to be a heavyweight in the UFC. Then he went to 205, had a couple fights there against, Ian Kuntelaba and Dominic Reyes. And now he's at 185. He looks shredded. He looks good at 185. To go from fighting at heavyweight to fighting at 185 shows real dedication. You know, he's strong at 185. He's very strong. And when he fought Robert Whitaker, he actually broke his arm. Well, Robert Whitaker broke his arm in that fight with strikes, I believe. And in the third round, I think it was a 3-round fight, he was still putting pressure on Robert Whitaker, still throwing hard punches, still had Robert Whitaker in trouble in the third round after, sort of starting out a little slow. So that shows that the power of Cannonier travels, you know, to the later rounds. Kelvin Gastelum, he's the guy who gave Israel, Adesanya his toughest fight for the interim middleweight title. One thing about that is I never like to see fighters who give it 120% in a championship fight and go into a dog war and lose. There's something about going into a dog war, giving it your all and losing that sort of takes a toll on you. You just gave it your all and you just lost. That takes a mental toll. So I don't like to see fighters jump right back in after that. I like to see them sort of take a little bit of time off, maybe take the take the long time, take the 8 months to a year, let your body rest, let your let your mind rest, let your soul rest, because you just went out there, gave it everything you got into one of the craziest fights in UFC history, and you came up a little bit short, which is not, which is still commendable, which is shows heart, it shows skill, dedication, but it takes a toll on the fighter. So for
But his
Gaslam's
last
thing,
fight wasn't Izzy, right?
no, but since Izzy, he's lost to Hermanson, he's lost to Robert Whitaker. He's sort of been on the decline because I think he came back too fast after having such a crazy violent fight.
Mhm.
You take that time off, just mentally.
Yeah.
But Gaslam, he's a very skilled striker. He's a very skilled fighter. I just don't think this is the division for him. He came
No.
into the no, because when you look at his physique, he's still soft. He still has weight he could lose. He came into the UFC at 170. I believe he can make 170 if he got on the proper diet and lost a little bit of weight. If Cannonier can make it from heavyweight to middleweight, I think Gaslam can make it from 185 to 170 on the proper diet.
Mm.
Or just, because at
He's
170,
durable though.
he's very durable. Either, I would like to see him either get down to 170 or just become a little bit more athletic at 185. Because
Mm.
against Robert Whitaker, Robert Whitaker looked a little bit bigger, a little bit stronger. Cannonier is going to come in looking a little bigger and a little stronger because Gaslam, who, is a heck of a fighter, very skilled, has great boxing, very durable, is just a little bit softer.
Yeah. Kenner is huge, man.
He's very strong, very cut up.
Yeah.
Like you said, I don't really know how this is going to play out, because there's such different fighters with different strengths.
Yeah.
But I think it's going to be a good fight,
Okay.
regardless
Is
of
there
who
anything else
wins.
on that? Is there anything else of note on that card?
Not really anything else, not any marquee fights on that card, which, no offense to the fighters, not too many marquee fights, but those are usually the cards that have the craziest knockouts. Those are the sleeper cards where you get those guys who break out with the UFC knockout of the year and stuff, because they're young guys who are hungry, looking for a finish.
Okay. So what we're gonna do? We're gonna close this out, but I got something to say to you after this, all right?
Yep.
So I'm gonna stop it. So all right, so UFC 265 review. Gotta say, August. What you got to say, Malik?
Hey, I'm just ready for the next couple fight cards so I can get my predictions right.
There you go. There you go. All right, everybody.